Jayne.
Hello.
It's Monday.
Monday.
It is. It's Monday.
It is.
Yes, and Jayne is here. Yes. Exciting. I didn't forget, but Beena might be surprised.
Ah.
Yes, but it's a good surprise. It's a good surprise.
Yes.
I have an appointment tomorrow that conflicts with my normal time, so we switched it up today.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, I was writing a whole long comment on a thing, so okay, all right. It'll just have to wait, but I want to just copy it somewhere because sometimes things get lost, and I don't want all that work to go lost. I don't want to post it just yet. I have to finish and re-edit it, and anyway. So where shall I put this? Come on. All right, let's put it in my quote file. Time being. Everything is slow. There we go.
No worries.
Brilliant. How are you, Erica? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Brilliant. Say again.
How are you two?
Most excellent. We're having fun. Right, Beena?
Yes, absolutely. One day, as share such amazing posts and details about her, and of course we are having fun about reading and exploring art and other things. So yes, it's fun. I love your pictures, by the way, Erica, and the way you captures some Westminster Abbey and then the other things, like wow, beautiful pictures. I just love that.
Thank you.
Especially details. I love those details when you take the corners, niches, and all. Like wow. So actually, really good pictures. They can be part of anything. Like okay, yes, really good pictures. Statically.
I appreciate that. I love photography. I have never taken a photography course, so I have no idea what I'm doing.
Good.
And I really enjoy just going out and trying different things and taking pictures of kind of unusual, like taking pictures from different angles or taking pictures of arches or different things like that. So it's fun.
But you capture your perspective, what you find beautiful, and that's amazing.
Yes. So, all right. So very cool. So if you go through your dictionary of power with the intent of connecting it to your photography, you're in for a magical surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've used photography as a metaphor, as an exemplification for practicing everything that we do. So, for instance, perspective shifting.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, when we, especially in the context of capital H, hearing, which is what we're about, right? We want to hear what's not said. We want to hear past what's obviously being chatted. Okay, at least initially it's like jabber, but then you sort of listen to yourself a little bit. Yeah, so that's not really what you're talking about. Okay, it's this. So same thing. What do most amateur photographers do? They look at the center. They look at the thing that they focused on, and they ignore all the rest. Right. So we want to look at what's around the subject. This is very important. Okay, now. What is making space but another way of saying light?
Yeah.
Right? If something's in the dark, there's no space for it. So, when you look at lighting and making space and also actual physical space for your photograph or bringing things to light, right? All of the part of hearing. So we really want to pay attention to light, which is, bringing things to light. You're listening to it. How does the light reveal? And again, and also the space, you don't want things to be too crowded in. What about balance?
Yeah, for sure.
Be balanced. Absolutely essential. The moment your thing is like this, well, now this is not a nice photograph because it feels like the person's going to fall over. Right? So simple things, right? So when you feel your picture, it's huge. Again, clarity of intent, always critical. Always. What is it that I am trying to illustrate here? Right?
Right.
What is my intent? So often photographers just snap and what are you trying to say here? And then you lose them.
Right.
So, I mean, we can go on with this, but it's a fantastic mechanism for paying attention to detail and feel and more. It's a fabulous, fabulous hobby.
Absolutely.
By the way, if you really want to practice your photography, I can, do it in the video games, the MMOs, right?
Okay.
This incredible place to. You've got a whole world, and you don't have to leave your home, and you've got
Right.
all this different stuff to
Right.
photograph. It's just quite incredible, and there's tons of them out there. Whatever you want, space fantasy, whatever.
Right.
And you're inside art. And if you really start to get into it, just the architecture that's shown in this is something else. Well, I mean, okay, I don't know
Yeah.
if this is from a game. I don't think this is from a game. It might be. It could very well be, or just a painting. But this is it's quite something. And also to photograph paintings,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Where you zoom in on a painting like this. Now, not all have the resolution that allow you to do that, but
Right.
that's the magic of the games. It's all art. So when you look at this, there's so much. I have thousands, tens of thousands of photographs for this because I've made it a hobby in the games.
Yeah.
Just to basically photograph the whole game, but to do it in a way and it's not always easy. Sometimes you get killed standing trying to take your photographs. So well, nervous of your art, but yeah, it's literally not technically difficult to get to places sometimes,
Right.
depending on the game, but still it's a very powerful way to expand one's photo, and it's a perspective. You're looking at the world in a different way,
Right.
and you also realize that taking the photograph, most amateurs take the photograph and then move the camera. They don't always realize that sometimes they need to move. In other words, you need
Oh,
to,
yes. Yeah.
what I mean? They just kind of zoom in, zoom out,
Right.
or
Right.
no, you need to physically move
Yes.
sometimes,
Yeah.
especially if the light is in the wrong place. You need to be, not only have spatial awareness, but also timing, because of course, time of day makes a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And not just time of day, but to catch the timing, the expression, the mood, all of this.
Yeah.
So, when you look at patience and discipline and forbearance and then timing, absolutely, photography is critical for this. You look at those National Geographic photographers who absolutely illustrate those four qualities,
Yes.
patience, discipline, forbearance,
Yeah.
and then it results in the timing.
Yeah.
Fantastic exemplification. So, yes, the photography, I hope you do more. Really, really do.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to see that. And
Really.
nowadays with the cell phones, this is more camera than it's way more. It's just more than enough. In
Yeah.
others, what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
they are fantastic, good cameras. People have shot movies that
Right.
they've shot in theaters with
Right.
cameras.
Yeah,
So
I have a nice camera and I don't know how to use it, so I didn't bring it with me, and
there you
I
go.
did everything on my phone, and
Correct.
my phone is
Yeah,
several years old at this point now.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
that
yeah.
has been more than
It's still
enough
good
at this
enough.
point for me
Correct, correct. And whoever did this, they made the photos to be in super high resolution. Most people have to compress them. They take up a lot of space if you don't.
Right.
They're amazingly high detail.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something super powerful. Really cool. I hope to see more. I've been thinking about you. I was just going to say, fun and games with Beena notwithstanding, and all the things that we've been doing. You've been big time on my mind. Um, Thinking about, you've been sharing about the vacation,
Hmm.
and you did share from the perspective of self-application, and connecting to yourself, self-proof, etc. But
Hmm.
I am keen now as an overview with a bit more distance behind it. It was fresh, but to look at it now in retrospect, with the same point that we looked at before. And I want to ask you, how do you feel about yourself?
How do I feel about myself?
Yes, when looking at the vacation and how you were, how you acted, and self-perspective in context of how you are as a person, not
Interesting.
just how you've changed and how you've applied
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, I think, let's see. Well, we talked about this the other day, but it was really apparent to me. I think probably because a lot of the places that we went on this trip, because it was our first time and because we had kind
Yeah.
of limited time there, a lot of the places we went were the really touristy
Yeah.
places, right? So
Yeah.
there were a lot of other people in these places
Yeah.
doing the touristy things.
Yes.
And one of the things that really stood out to me that we already discussed a bit was how much it was really apparent to me just how different my experience was or seemed to be to me versus the experience other people were having.
Yeah.
And not to say that my experience was any better or
Oh no.
worse
Oh
than
no. Oh
anybody
no.
else's,
This never.
but
Yeah.
just that from my perspective, it seemed that in many
Yes.
cases I was having a very
Yeah.
different experience than the other
Yes.
people around me.
Yes. If we had the ability to go inside everybody's head, we will be quite shocked to realize that what you just articulated actually applies to everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, but we tend to labor under this false belief that it's somewhat similar, and it's
Right.
complete nonsense, right?
Right.
So when we really get to this point where you've just got, where you actually truly comprehend, appreciate, understand, acknowledge, and connect to the fact that your experience is different,
Right.
this is a
Right.
powerful, powerful point. It's absolutely critical in self progression.
Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Huge point, huge
And
point. And, oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you are okay with it.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's the real point.
Right.
Most people, well, okay, yes, I guess we're all sort of unique. It's not that much
Right.
of a revelation.
Right.
All right, well, I'm more, but, they will reluctantly accept it or eagerly, depending on the ego.
Right.
But to be okay with it, that's a whole different thing. I mean, they're either overly okay with it, well, of course it's different, I'm unique, I'm special,
Right.
or they apologetic and uncomfortable, I'm a freak, I'm a weirdo. Yeah,
Right. Right.
you're in balance. You're in balance. This is just an obvious conclusion of rightness, and so it
Right.
is. Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Huge.
One of
That's
the
brilliant.
things that really stood
Hmm?
out to me, which we also already talked about, but from this perspective specifically, it was so interesting. The Mona Lisa experience for me was just
Yes.
so
Yeah.
interesting in a number of ways, but one of them being that it really highlighted to me that one of the big reasons I was having a really different experience, not only from the people around me, but in relation to other people who have recounted stories of past visits to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, recognizing
Oh,
that my experience was really different from the experience that they recounted.
yeah.
It was really obvious to me that a main reason for that was because I had just been listening to and learning about and being interested in Leonardo da Vinci, and
Yes. Yes.
listening to this book, getting all of this extra information, really thinking about him and his life and his work gave me a completely different perspective on the
Yes.
experience, and it led to me having a very different experience than a lot of the other people around me. And that's what's happening on a constant basis all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all having all of these different experiences because we all have unique experiences throughout our lives, unique perspectives, unique interests. We're all in different stages of
Yes.
thinking about things, experiencing things. And that was a really cool realization for me that, my experience at this particular point in time in this particular space was really specific because in part of what I was learning, because in part of what I was experiencing, in part because of who I am and what interests me. All of these different things led to this particular experience I had. And
And more.
and more. And everyone else was having their own unique individual experience there because of their own interests and
Yes.
experiences and perspectives.
Yes.
And
They,
that was
yeah.
really cool.
There is a difference, though, a significant difference and a profound difference. And that is, in addition to all you said, you are specifically in the habit of application.
Right, right, right.
Right. So it's not just that, oh, you're reading and, now it's an interest and it's just where your attention happens to be. It's also specifically to apply what you're acquiring
Right,
and connect and that moreness. And that's a huge difference because it resulted in profoundly significant different action.
true.
I mean, you could have been in that situation and come away. I could quite easily see it where somebody had read the book and said, I really would have liked to have spent more time, but, all the pressure. And so I just ended up taking a selfie.
Right, right, right. Right. True.
That's what you would in the same, most people in the same situation or the same experience, that would have been the end result, but
Yeah.
yours wasn't. You basically stood alone against the world, which is not something for somebody who has consideration as deeply embedded part of their soul. This was not an easy thing to do.
Right.
It's not simply a matter of just sort of being different. No, this was about, in a sense, being inconsiderate.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that's very hard to do, to say, I've got to put my demands over yours. And that's a profoundly, deeply huge, magical thing that you did. And boy, I mean, to me, impressive. It's like huge. It's not a simple thing. It's a very, very big deal to do. It's a simple thing. So again, that application, I'm emphasizing because I appreciate it's difficult for you to share in that way. But we have to appreciate ourselves. This is
Right.
very key, and acknowledge when we have done something that is a moreness and that steps outside and
Yeah.
extends us. We have to acknowledge that. It's very, very crucial. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very crucial.
Yeah. That
It's a
makes
very big deal. It's a very big deal. I'm also particularly keen to sort of get an idea of now, with a bit of distance,
Mm-hmm.
how you feel about the vacation itself, the experience, the interactions, and yourself. Very keen to hear about yourself.
Okay. Um, how I feel about myself in terms of the interactions.
Or just now, look, when you came back from the vacation, you had a feel about yourself. During the vacation, you had a feel about yourself. How now, but still keeping the vacation as a context for just giving perspective and feel an idea. We
Mm-hmm.
ask it in that way.
Um, let's see. Let me think about
Yeah, it's a tricky question a bit. Yeah.
what I'm thinking of. Um, well, there's a lot of disparate thoughts coming up.
Ah.
On one hand, the second half of the vacation for sure, with things going in a completely different direction than we were expecting to. I mean, I told you guys the other day, I was really excited that being able to use some way of impeccability
Yes.
thinking and, seeing that as an anomaly and being able to kind of shift out of feeling really disappointed about it was really big. But, for sure in the moment like that, that second week was really chaotic. And I mean, for sure presents an opportunity, I think, for continued improvement in application. I mean, I would not say that that was something that I handled like perfectly and without any kind of difficulty or, you know, really having to like think it through. I think now, like, there's a lot more I can probably
There's
gain.
always, there's always.
There's a lot more I can gain now, like now that I'm not in that
Yeah, yeah.
chaotic mindset. There's probably a lot more that can be gleaned from that second half. In the moment, you know, I would have liked to have been a lot more probably present in the moment, I would say, but we had so many things going on that was hard to do, and that was interesting. You know, I mean, there were a lot of things I was really excited about in terms of improvements that I'm seeing in the way that I'm approaching things, but certainly it was not without further opportunities for for practice.
Now that in itself, Erika, is something to be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a negative, it's a positive.
Absolutely.
When we develop the ability to see more, this is great, but we can't get down on it, because let me ask you this. If you were to take it in the other way around, could your reactions have been significantly worse?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And might they have been so in the past?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's the point. See, so we can always improve. You know, we all are harsh critics, but we have to at also some point say, hey, you know what? It was good enough. It worked and it was fine. Of course, it can be better, but you know, ideal is an ideal. Reality is reality. So you know, at some point, I got to make peace and be happy with whatever it was.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But being able to see opportunities for improvement, this is a great joy.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, can you imagine if we did not see opportunities for improvement? That might take some of the fun out of living, no?
For sure.
We like to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's been really interesting since coming back from the trip. So I told you guys I was really thinking a lot about observation, and certainly was doing a lot of observing when I was there, but not, I was really more thinking about observation than putting together particular practices for, you know, how to change observation. And since I've come back, I started reading this book that Mom got me started on, because there was a podcast episode on one of Brene Brown's podcasts where she interviewed the author of this book, and it's really interesting. She's a neuroscientist from India, and she studies attention specifically.
Excellent.
And it's
Excellent.
so incredibly fascinating, and really interesting for me in particular from an ADHD perspective.
Yes.
She talks about how, I mean, she talks all about attention and how it works, and, you know, how we understand it to work today. But she also, like, the big point of the book is that she discovered, I don't know, I feel like it's been a little while now, but she discovered at some point in her career that mindfulness meditation can completely change our attention, like from a neurological perspective. It literally
rewires the brain.
Yeah, it literally changes your brain. And she's been a pioneer in a lot of these studies in like tracking, you know, the changes in people's brains over time with attention when you start applying mindfulness meditation techniques. And she talks a lot about staying in the present moment. And I keep thinking about, you know, the way that she kind of talks about it it's reminding me a lot of capital H hearing. And it's reminding me a lot of observation, like capital O observation, because she talks about how really you're not listening, you're not hearing, you're not really observing, and you're not present. If your attention is on all of these other things that are past focused, that are future focused, you're not really focusing on what's happening right now.
You're not
And
living.
right. And because of that, you're not extracting everything that you could be from the current moment. And she said, I think in the podcast episode, she said something that was like really obvious, but it was definitely one of those making the obvious moments. For Brene, you could tell was this like really mind blowing thing for her. But she said something like, you can't remember something if you're not paying attention to it.
Correct. Which is what
super
exactly.
Right. I mean, it's like super obvious, like, of course, but when you really think about it, she said most people who think that they're having memory issues are not actually having memory issues, they're having attention issues. Because if we're not giving something full attention, we're not going to remember it. You have to be really paying attention to something in order to remember it. And it seems like a duh, but a lot of us aren't really focusing on that.
We spoke about it when we spoke about tagging.
Right.
Attention is tagging.
Right.
You need to make the specific associations.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting. I keep thinking about, like, while I'm listening to this book, I keep thinking about the trip and about how much, like, she talks a lot about why biologically we are wired to have our attention kind of stray. Like, it became a necessary thing because if we were so completely focused on doing one task, we might miss the animal hiding over here that's trying to eat us. And so, we're sort of biologically inclined to not focus completely on one given thing. And so it's not like there's something wrong with us when our attention is being pulled in different directions. That's what it's designed to do. But we can direct it more when we're doing, mindfulness techniques.
Yes.
And I keep thinking about the trip and about how many opportunities there were for attention diversion with all of these things going on. It was hard to be just completely present in the moment. And I was, because of like really thinking about observation and trying to pay attention to different things, I was really working on trying to be present in the moment, pay attention to what I'm looking at right now. But it was really hard when there were all of these other things we were trying to figure out. Like, okay, well, I mean, there was no planning really in the second half of the trip because of everything getting derailed. So it was like everything we were doing last minute. We wouldn't figure out where we were staying that night until that day. We wouldn't know where we were eating until 5 minutes before we were about to eat something. Everything was just like totally last minute. And so it was really easy to get pulled into worrying about, well, what am I gonna what are we doing later? Like, I can't focus on this right now because I'm worrying about what we're doing later. So that's been really interesting to think back to that and recognize just how easy it is to get pulled in all these different directions. And one thing that she says in the book that I love is that her book is not designed to help you figure out how to reduce the number of distractions, stressors, high demand things in your life, because in reality, there's always going to be stressors, high demand situations, whatever. We cannot fully and completely remove those things in order to better our attention. So her book is designed to help you basically practice getting better at directing your attention more deliberately when you are in those situations, because those situations are going to happen, whether you want them to or not. And that is such a fascinating concept to me of it. Like, it keeps making me think of sort of acknowledging and facing the awful truth that
Yes.
if we just, like, if our strategy in life is, well, just avoid all of the things that make me uncomfortable, avoid all the things that are stressful, avoid all the things that I don't want to believe are true or whatever, then inevitably when we're faced with those things, it leads to worldview collapse. It creates this whole problem for us. And so, I love this idea of approaching it or from the perspective of, the awful truth exists. We don't want to just bury our heads in the sand and not look at it. What we want to do is develop a strategy for handling that and optimizing our ability to respond in those situations.
Yes. Yes.
So
It's
I
context
love that.
management.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. Context management. Context management.
Yes.
Context management. And if we really get down to it, this point of attention management that she's mentioning, it gets
Yes.
down to clarity of intent.
Right.
Because when you know what you are doing, then it's much easier to maintain your attention. I'll explain in a moment. I want to check something because I, it's a big part of capital H hearing, and I want to
Okay.
just see that I'm not being preemptive. So 1 second. This is very exciting, Erica. It all ties in. All ties
It
in. Very,
does.
very
It
exciting.
does.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Oops. A dollop. That's all I need. Wow.
Dollop of daisy.
Dollop of milk.
Oh, okay. That
Just
for
it,
some
it came
reason.
out a little wildly, and it was threatening to be a lot more than a dollop. So
Ah,
yeah.
every
It's
time
being
I
unruly. It was being unruly.
Every
All
time
right.
I hear the word dollop, it makes me think of, I don't know that they still do that on their commercials, but when I was a kid, Daisy Sour Cream advertised all the time on TV, and they had that song. It's like, do a dollop of Daisy. So
Interesting.
every time I hear the word dollop, I think
Dollop.
about Daisy
Yeah, yeah,
Sour
yeah,
Cream.
yeah. Sour cream is definitely dollop. Milk isn't quite dollopy. It's a
Yeah,
little it's too liquidy for a dollop.
it's
It
like
can, depending on
flat.
the yeah. But cream on sour cream, definitely those are dollop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so the peculiarities
Yes.
of interest and attention. All right, so let's go to HAH. As well. Okay, okay. So, all right, that was the introduction, and we are on emphasizing appreciations. Yes, we're on module one. Yeah.
Gosh, I know. I really intended to get back to this because it's been so long.
Okay. So yeah, paying exquisite attention. So it does come later. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big deal. There's a lot in between, but yes. So I'll just leave it for now. Then this is a big part of it. This particular leveraging of attention
Okay.
and how we can do this. Yeah.
I like it.
In the context of exactly what she was saying, but actual specific details on how to do this, knowing that our attention is there and
Right.
jump to all this. So
Right.
yeah, it's very cool.
I like it. I like it. That's another interesting thing that has been, I mean, I've been thinking about it um, separate from the trip, but it was, I think, taking a break from sort of regular life or whatever to go on the trip made me think about all this stuff again with renewed interest and in a different way. Um, I have continued really thinking about my attention, my interests, my motivation. And we've talked about this many times, but for basically my whole life, I think I have struggled with this because I saw it as a problem. So it was a struggle. But my interests and not even, motivation, yes, but maybe more so just energy around certain activities or something. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for, but my immersion in an activity just waxes and wanes so much sort of naturally that it's made it really hard for me to stick with any particular one thing long enough to like really master or something. And I it's made it hard for me to, I mean, I got around this issue and figuring out sort of a long-term goal for myself in terms of a career and where I was going with my life by focusing on something that I really was not interested in hardly at all for reasons, I thought, well, this is financially secure, this is a good career, blah 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 blah, all these other things, and sort of forced myself to stick with this despite my little level of interest. And I did that. I did the thing. I did that for 10 years, learned a lot. And now that I have removed myself from that situation and have been focusing more on trying to put my energy into something that I'm actually interested in and really have a lot of motivation and energy around, it's been really fascinating to me that I still have this very varied level of interest and energy around all of the different things that I'm interested in. And that that just changes constantly. And it's interesting to me. I was just talking with somebody yesterday about they are having a similar experience, that my hobbies and interests and the things that I enjoy doing, it's not that I completely lose interest in something and never come back to it. All of the things that I'm interested in, I stay interested in. It's just that the amount of interest or the amount of motivation or immersion or energy around it goes through these kind of fluctuating periods. And so I might get really excited about some particular project with drawing and do that, with lots of fervor and interest for a couple weeks. And then that kind of slows down. It's not that I'm not interested in it anymore per se. It's just that I don't have the same level of energy around it. I end up, kind of doing something else or having to focus on something else because I have something else happening in my life. And then eventually I will circle back around to that. But that natural fluctuation in interest and energy makes it hard to figure out what direction I want to focus on for, a career or what I'm doing in my life. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and about really working on not seeing that as something wrong with me that necessarily needs to change.
No.
Trying to figure out how to work with that instead of seeing it as something that needs to be fixed or whatever. And it was really interesting on the trip to see. We didn't get to see, because we weren't there in any of these places for a super long time. We didn't get to see a ton of this, but like Joe commented, I think it was in, yeah, it was in France because we had this, oh, we had an interesting experience on the metro in France.
Oh, what happened?
Well,
Oh, give us the comment of Joe first and then tell me.
yeah, long story. I'll tell you this part first. So we discovered we took the metro in all the places that we went because I love taking the metro. It's like
Yeah.
this super fascinating experience to me. We don't have
Yes.
any subways like anywhere near Oklahoma, so that's something.
Oh,
It's like a
oh,
special
oh.
thing that I only get to do when I go to some big city. There's so much fascinating like people watching to do on the subway. I think it's this like incredibly magical experience.
It is. It is. That
So,
particular European subway is a whole other experience again.
yes, yes. So it was super interesting. So I was always like wanting to take the metro to different places. So we took the metro multiple times while we were in France. And one of the times we got on at like 9, it was at least 9:30. It might have even been closer to 10. And it was like rush hour. Like everybody was on the metro going to work.
Ah.
And we were going, wow, it's like late. I mean, according to American standards,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
rush hour in America is at like 7 o'clock. And
Yeah.
here it's almost 10. And this is when people are getting into work. And that was a cool experience for me. Like I knew, again, we were talking about this the other day, taking something from a logical understanding to something that you actually get to experience in real time
Uh,
makes it more palpable and real for me. And so, like, theoretically, I understood that in other parts of the world, there's less of a focus on work, 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 work. Everything is about work. There's
yes.
more of a work life balance. There's more of a, I want to get into work later because I don't want to kill myself getting up super early. So that's what I'm going to do. But it was so cool to like actually experience that and see that people were
Ah,
doing that. And that was an encouraging thing for me that maybe there really is some way for me to find a way to make this part of myself work from a career perspective, from a long-term planning perspective, that, it's possible that the system that I'm trying to operate within is one that does not really appropriately allow for my nature and the way I tend to work. So, it's possible that in other places where the focus is different, I may be able to find new ideas for how to make
absolutely.
this work.
Absolutely.
So that
And
was
especially,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, especially if you also take it and what seems to be a disadvantage, you turn it into an advantage.
Right, right,
And like I said, it's something that's not doing the same thing all the time, but more
right.
project oriented and so on. So absolutely, I mean, just being a producer, you would be a fabulous producer, I think.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's lots of different things. I'm trying to think. It's I find it endlessly funny that trying to think outside of the box to me kind of makes
yes,
that collapse. It's like the
yes,
more you
yes,
try to
yes,
think outside the box, the more you're like,
yes.
but wait. So I'm
So
trying
this is
to
a good. Yeah,
I'm trying to
good.
think outside of the box without thinking too hard about thinking outside of the box.
Yes, yes. Okay, I want to go into that as a strategy and how
Okay.
to accomplish that in a moment. I just want to say, you learned one thing very important about yourself from your job,
Okay.
right? That regardless of your interest, you can do whatever needs
Yes.
doing.
I was
Right?
just talking
So,
about that. Yeah, I was just talking about
so
that the
you
other
have
day.
discipline, in other words, and
I
forbearance.
do. One of the really interesting things, though, that I was saying to my mom the other day is like that exact thing. I know because I have done it. I know that I can force myself to stick with something that I'm totally not interested in doing, to get things done, to focus on, whatever. The really key thing that job taught me, in addition to understanding that that's something I can do, is at what cost.
Exactly.
That was
Exactly.
really
At
good.
what cost?
Right.
Yes, yes, yes. Also, very, very, very important to understand. When we do things, never is it with one reason only.
Right. Right.
Never. So the key with motivation is to pay attention to the other reasons. You were able to do something which, for the surface reasons, no, you didn't want to do, but you did it because of other reasons,
Right.
higher reasons, right?
Right. Right.
So when we take a task and we say, if I can tap into those abstract reasons, the not so particular reasons, there I can find the motivation.
Yeah.
For instance, I can tap into the motivation of doing something that I don't want to do for the sheer sake of doing it because I don't want to do it to prove
Right.
to myself I
Right.
can. So we can use it as an opposite. We are funny when it comes to motivation, that almost anything can be tweaked in a way to find us motivation.
Yeah.
We can always find that angle. And this brings up a big point that came up with Cher earlier. And we had a great conversation. And, Beena was also sharing. Are you still here with us? I hope so, Beena. Just our share has so much changed. She was noticing in
Yes,
Cher's
I'm there. I'm listening.
smile,
Yes.
how that came up. But the point I want to make is about choices and options. Yes.
Okay.
So Cher's the self diplomacy or the capital diplomacy course is really
Yeah.
everything has fallen into place for Cher, and she's kind of blossoming from it.
Yeah.
And
She was
you know,
just telling me that.
taking a, yeah. Oh, she was saying that. Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
anyway, so she's taken this from a self diplomacy point of view, and precisely now what I was saying about motivation leverage is self diplomacy. We want to be sometimes us. Beelzebub, wait your turn, please. Come on. You didn't hear that sound? It
No.
sounded like, I think like in the movies, when they have the
Oh.
spirits, like a really rough, gruff voice. So I
Oh.
said, hey, stop, wait your turn.
What was that?
Wow. I don't know what sound it was.
I don't know. I was asking you guys. What was that?
I don't know. Do you
Yeah.
know what it was?
I didn't hear it.
Oh,
Oh, it
I
was
thought it
huge.
came, yeah, I thought it came from you somewhere. I think it's when you moved your keyboard or
But
your hand
I'm
across.
I'm typing, and so it's like making my computer bounce around. So it could be.
Yeah. It was great. It was a great sound, though. It was really awesome. Right, Beena? Didn't it sound like a sort of a ghosty voice? Yeah, like a demon kind of a voice. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
In my brain, sometimes, it makes, it just goes, I don't know. I guess it listens too quickly sometimes. Anyway, so uh, a key point in this, not just with leveraging motivation, is to realize that once we start to say not just the particular motivations, but abstract motivations, and this changes. We can, in other words, learn to enjoy anything. All we got to do it is associate it to our deep underlying abstract motivations that are always present. Yes. The motivation of learning, the motivation of growing, the motivation of application of all of our skills, like I'm using this to apply patience and discipline and so on, right? And also extending awareness, etc., etc., etc. I'm learning to be appropriate. What thing that you do can you not practice the application of appropriateness? So
Yeah.
when we start to be motivated by our abstract overview, most important skills, and
Hmm.
translate those, anything will serve. And this
True.
is a
True.
huge shift in motivation. So in the
Yeah.
end, it doesn't actually matter. And when you find yourself waning on a particular task that you want to
Hmm.
do, shift into the abstract motivations, and then it all comes back again.
I like
Right?
that. I like
So
that.
next time you're doing your drawing, start to say, oh, what am I doing in the abstract? Okay, now with a drawing, I'm going to come up to a very particular point, because you were saying about thinking outside the box. So I'm going to
Yeah.
backtrack a little bit here and lay a foundation first. When it comes to choices and options, you mentioned there's always another option.
Yes.
Yeah, very key point. All right. Most people, let's say in the genesis of awareness, you start off with, you've got a perspective, an opinion, a belief, and
Right.
then you come to realize, whoa, 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 there's another one. And typically that other perspective is an opposite, right?
Right.
And we now get stuck in black, white, either or, right, wrong, etc., and you end up in that gray world. But then eventually, hopefully, not always, you get to realize with colors. Joe, hello. How are you, man? How are you? I was so enjoying seeing you and enjoying it when I saw the pictures of you enjoying yourself on the vacation. I was like, yes, brilliant, brilliant. I said to Erica,
what I'm about to do.
Yes.
Yes, I'm about to go get
bug.
a dentist to get a crown put in.
Oh, okay. Well, still, it seems to me the travel bug has grabbed you a bit, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
brilliant. Definitely going back.
Brilliant. See ya, Joe. See ya. All right, bye-bye. Was Joe saying he's got to go to the dentist now, or was he smile because he needs the crown?
No. No, he's on his way to get his first ever crown. So.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. I thought maybe he said that's what my smile wasn't really a smile. I was just like trying, the crown was.
Anyway. I have 3 crowns, so I told him, "Welcome to the club." You know.
There you go. Yeah. So I mean, it's to be a princess is one thing, but I don't know, prince. The whole idea doesn't quite work for the guys quite so much, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Prince. But in the name of equality, you can get to be a prince too, right? So
that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
You can be a princess if you like, also in today's world.
True. That's true. You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah. Just don't get in my underwear drawer. That's all.
Yeah.
Right. Priorities. There's boundaries. There are boundaries. The shoes are okay, but you might stretch them a bit, so I don't think you'll fit. I think probably Joe's toe would fit into one of your shoes, yes?
Oh my gosh. You should see his feet are a lot bigger than mine, but you should see him up next to my mom. My mom wears a size 4.5.
Wow.
And Joe wears a 13. So
yeah, I can imagine.
When he gets his foot up next to her shoe, or she gets his up next
ridiculous.
to his.
Yeah. Olivia has tiny feet like that too.
Does she?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyway, we digress. So we're in this progression that we have one choice, 2 choices, then we get more choices.
Right.
But here's the problem. When we do see more choices, and even when we've gotten the ability to perspective shift, we say, okay, I'm looking at all the options. And let's say I come up with 10 choices. What do we naturally and instinctively do? We pick the best choice.
Right.
But there's a problem with that sometimes.
Hang on, I lost your audio. It always picks the worst time to cut out.
Moreness.
Yes, yeah.
Whenever you get like something huge, it collects.
That's all. Yeah, he's like building up to this big point, and then he goes, and here it is, and then the audio goes. Every time.
It will come.
I don't know what he was showing on the screen there.
Oh, so he dropped. He will come now. Okay.
There we go.
I tell with you then, phone. If you don't want to do your thing, I'm just gonna not. You're not gonna get to be in the party. That's all.
You're far away from your microphone.
Yeah. I'll adjust it in a second. Yeah. Well, because I'm on the computer now, so the microphone's on the camera up top here. Yeah. So it's why I don't like to use it, because it isn't quite the same.
Right.
Anyway, so now we say, okay, I've got 10 choices, and we choose the best option.
Right.
But the best option is not necessarily a good option. It's not necessarily a bad option either, but it's not necessarily good. But we don't even consider that, because we just, this is the best option. And we assume the best option is the right choice. And that's that's a false logic. It's a false association, right? So
true.
The key critical strategy here, technique, tool, is to say, when we are perspective shifting in our range of perspectives, we need to include perspectives not imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Options not imagined. Unknown options, in other words. Right? But I rather than say unknown, I say not imagined.
Yeah.
I'm using it very particularly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because unknown, it could imply unknowable, but okay. And it just unknown seems a lot more difficult than not imagined. It simply means I have not yet imagined it, or at least there's that implication. It doesn't necessarily mean it, but it has that association, that tape to it. All right. So now we say, when I look at my range of options and I say, okay, 1 to 10 is doable right now. And then, 10 to 15 or whatever, there's ... I don't know how many are unimagined this yet. Do I need to make the effort to figure out and imagine and connect to and find those as yet to be imagined options? Or is the options that I have currently, are they okay? Now it's an entirely different choice, right? Now I say, well, now it's effort reward. And well, okay, the best one is 95%. I can live with that. I'm happy with that. That's cool. I don't really need to, that little bit difference is going to make it. But if I say, well, no, this is kind of, it's 60% maybe. It's like, well, no, I want more.
Right.
I'll make that effort. Now, how to connect to options not yet imagined? Now, this is the key critical question. And this is precisely one of the key themes and intents that is capital H hearing is all about.
Okay.
It's precisely about the techniques and mechanisms for connecting to options not imagined.
Okay.
So what we are essentially doing it's not specifically stated in capital H hearing, because I don't want to necessarily go there. But what we are doing is a technique and a mechanism for shutting down the commentary and the chatter and all of the internal. In other words, the internal dialogue. We are looking to create a discipline that's creating silence. But the reason I haven't mentioned it is because we don't want to be thinking of, I need to create silence, because it's one of those negative things that you can't do.
They've just been talking about that in the book that I was reading about attention, and about how that's what people always suggest when it comes to that kind of thing, and it's totally counterproductive. Because it uses up attention resources to not think about it.
Exactly. So now with capital H hearing, we are learning to hear the more. We are learning to hear what's not said. We are hearing what's not imagined. We are hearing what is beyond and outside of ourselves. What are we doing with capital H hearing? We are creating space for the moreness to come.
Okay.
Right? The moment I focus on my 10 options or whatever, that limited range of options, the moment I see them as a complete set, I exclude everything else.
Yeah.
Right? So now we are looking at just the neuro-creative process of the brain. And the bureaucrats will say, well, I don't need to do it anymore. But when you say, oh, wait a second, what? No. Actually, there's these 10 choices, plus there are choices not imagined, and that's an extrapolated ... that goes on into infinity. Yes. But of course, we only want the ones that are pertinent and relevant to us. And, it's again like a Google search, right? They're going to diminish.
Right.
But now the inner bureaucrats and the brain is saying, oh. And now we start to bring in, let's see, Office X or Department X.
Okay.
Which says, oh, this is my department. Muller and Scully come in and they say, we can deal with this, right? This is our department. The unconscious, the subconscious now gets involved. But we make room for things to come and bubble up. Not only the subconscious and the unconscious. That's only one. That's okay, fine. Because now I'm dealing with what's not imagined, but that's only one part of it. Now I have another department, Department XX, which is my recognition, my pattern recognition, and my extrapolation department, and my inference department, and my implication department. In these departments, they only need one little peculiar, tweaky anomaly, and they say, oh, from this we're going to go. We're going to go.
Right.
So in the course, the presenter of the course, who's a renowned artist, not that I care for his art much, but that's a different point. Anyway, he was sharing his process. He had a very involved painting. And he said, all he did was he had no idea what he was going to paint. I don't know what started him on painting this,
Okay.
but he said, he didn't even start with the face. He started with the eye. And then from the eye, I imagine he started with like an eyelid or the first line, but then essentially what he was saying that he had no conception. The eye led to the face led to the body. Then somehow the body said there's somebody sitting next door to him and all of this. And he said not any single element of the painting was planned. It all came in response to what had come before.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Yes. And so I made the comment there. I said where it begins is not necessarily where it ends.
Right.
Yeah. And I use this in writing. It's a very important thing. And again, he now specifically in that particular case started without any conception. But you may even start with your conception. Don't get married to it. That's the point.
Right.
So stay open to more is coming, because we have a profound skill that isn't exercised, but it's there. And it's the skill of appropriateness. Yeah. So when it comes to not imagined, doesn't mean that we cannot imagine. And in this case, all we've got to do sometimes is let one thing appropriate and it stimulates the next. And now it is sometimes you may have a very logical, boring thing, but if you stay open to sort of random and inspiration, then you can end up with a painting like his, which, it may just be, well, there's not much to it. It's just random stuff all fitting together, right? And the random painting. That's possible, but nonetheless, you end up with something not imagined.
Mm-hmm.
So there's many ways to get here. The key point of it all is to let it come and let it happen and use our tools. And if you want to get into detail on it specifically, it is, for instance, like using tools such as appropriateness, implication, inference, extrapolation, very important. And also randomness. You want to use randomness to say, let me throw this into the mix and see what happens, right? So you take your painting and like at some point you could have said, let me just do something entirely random. And you can even literally, say, okay, I need to add in a color. You roll the dice and you pick a color according to the dice. And you throw that in there. Oh, now you see, and now you start to go relative to that again. So, you have this diversion point. Like, you take a fractal and you add a random tweak, it's going to change that whole pattern. So that's the other point too, fractal. To understand and know that if you look at the beginning of fractal patterns, they don't look like anything, correct?
Right.
So we have to be aware that imagination, sometimes you've got to let it run and look at the overall totality. Then we see those intricate patterns and the shorelines and whatever. Yes. You need to let it run to its end. Yeah. So many techniques for connecting to the unknown. The most critical one is maintenance of intent.
Maintenance of intent? Is that what you said?
Correct. So Beena will attest to this, right? Beena's paintings, yes. The tasks and exercises for the course, they said you got to do this, and they gave some examples of what you had to do. And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm an untrained artist and whatever, right? So Beena was, I wanting to do the exercise. So Beena had to go eat. So I said, Beena, while you go eat, let whatever it is just stew and brew and swirl and go around. Don't think about it specifically, but stay connected to it and just let it be in there. And then when she came back, I said, just do without thinking about what you do. Just let it come out. And she did. She painted fabulous. That first painting, the one with the spirit figure in the sun, and that came out. Right? It's just fantastic. And she absolutely implemented the process, and it was fantastic. It was really awesome. So the key here is, yes, intent, but also trust.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? In between, you're going to have patience and discipline, and hopefully not forbearance, but the patience to wait. Yes. And then the discipline to not try and force opinions, ideas, and thoughts, because it's outside of your known. So the discipline is to say, I don't know, but you connecting and letting stuff swirl.
Yeah.
Right. So if we take it from intent, know what it is that you want to do. I want to paint a painting. That's what I want to do. Even if it's not a topic, I want to paint a painting. Yes. Or you can even make it more abstract. I want to bring something beautiful. It doesn't have to be a painting. It can be something else, right? So again, know what you're trying to do, even if there's multiple objectives.
Right.
Then simply step aside and make space for it to happen. That's the patience. The patience is, and this point of making space is going to come up massively in the hearing program. We're going to be talking about it in exquisite detail.
Okay.
And that's what you did, right, Beena? You made space, yes, when you went to, you made space. And then the trust.
Okay.
Trust.
Yes, absolutely. That was the huge deal because at that point I had no idea. Mostly my drawings and paintings, I just started, and that's why I was saying yesterday with Cyril that, okay, what Cyril was sharing, because his name is Cyril. So what Cyril was sharing, this is exactly right. Yes, Cyril was saying, this is what I do. This is how I draw my things because I don't have any pressure. And that becomes a huge deal for me because when I said in front of him in a workshop, I said, oh, I'm not an artist. Because I was feeling that pressure that everybody else is trained artist and I'm going to share my drawings or paintings, whatever you want to call it. And then he says, but this is actually your advantage because you have that freshness and you don't have that burden or pressure or anything like to follow anything. And this is what I do. But particularly for that drawing, that was a kind of like a control abandon kind of a thing because Sil actually suggests me just go eat, just don't think about it and come and right away start doing this. Right. So it was not completely random like I used to do before, but it was not controlled also. So yeah, that really important, like to have this clear intent but no preconceived idea about that. Just be receptive.
I like that. Yeah.
Just receptive. So that was a whole definition of receptivity, of course. But this is how Sil actually did that, and I was experiencing that controlled abandon right there because that was a trust and intent, but no preconceived idea.
Yeah.
Controlled abandon
Yeah.
is a
Just
very
allow the moments to
critical
come.
point. Yes, I forgot about to mention controlled abandon. It's absolutely critical. When we are looking to bring the unknown, the unimagined into or moreness, right, into our reality, controlled abandon is a very big topic. Yes, very, very
yes,
big tool.
Yes. So just want to ask Erica, because you were sharing and I was listening to you that you had a completely different experience as compared to other people. Of course, you were able to observe that you have a different experience, not like that. And you were using the term touristy, kind of like, okay, yes, they have this. I was feeling that it is actually, for me, it was the seeker mindset. You were not anymore in that seeker mindset. You were enjoying those things. You were allowing it, trying to actually, it was for me at least, it was a deliberate effort to perceive moreness there. Not just like, okay, looking for new things. Okay, yes, I saw that, I saw that, I saw that.
Right.
Oh, I'm here, I'm here. You were allowing that. So you were not into that seeker mindset anymore. Though you were a tourist, of course, everything was new, but you were not seeking anything. That is something, of course, very different. And of course, it comes with way of impeccability. It's a kind of perks of. And then when we are not aware of it, it becomes a bit of pressure that I'm losing. Oh, I don't feel excited as I used to be before way of impeccability because nothing actually becomes a huge deal for me. Because in Zoom sessions, I have experienced that, and I saw other people also experience that. Every single day, you experience the transformation. So when you experience transformation or transmutation, I could say that if I exaggerated, then how anything subtle, normal can excite you.
Right.
Because you are so used to with that. So we lose interest sometimes because we are not actually attentively or being deliberate in this thing that and being aware that putting it in front of our consciousness all the time that yes, because I'm so used to with transformation every single day in my life, And because I am no more in seeking mindset anymore, so that's why I'm not feeling that excitement. I am here to observe more, not just obvious, but beyond the obvious.
Right. Yeah, that's a really interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but it's making me think of capital H hearing observation is sort of working off of an understanding or a deliberate assumption that moreness is already present versus like I have to go out and find it. It's already here. I just need to perceive it. I need to, you know, it's a different kind of observation, I guess. Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but and it really to me it connects a lot with the concept of being,
Exactly.
which is really interesting. Yeah, I love that.
If someone will if I will ever get a chance to actually see Mona Lisa in front of me, and I would have a chance to be there, I will go further from your experience, because I have seen the obvious, and
Right.
I have, well, of course, you have shared a lot with me. So now I will go further. So Mona Lisa is not going to be a painting from the most famous painting in the world for me.
Right.
I'm going to perceive it further from what you have already perceived.
Right.
So my experience will be completely different,
Right.
at least what I expect. So this is what happened with you. You were already aware of that grandeur of Mona Lisa. So you were not impressed by that. You were not seeking that grandness from her. You
Right.
were going beyond that. And that's why your experience were different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this happen for everyone who is going to be in this way of compatibility. And this grandness is like collapsing every single day in Zoom sessions for us. So nothing actually, we need something like really huge nuclear kind of thing to actually get excited or get shocked by that, because we are so used to with transformation every single day.
Right.
So we need to just put things. For me, it is like that I need to be like really open to perceive moreness. Otherwise, I will the world on surface will lose its charm for me.
That's interesting.
So
Excited by
trust
the
here.
obviousness.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
Yes,
go ahead.
I was just saying that I'm not going to get excited by the obviousness of this.
Yeah.
My mind is tuned with moreness now.
Yes.
I want to perceive more. I want to have more. So
Exactly.
this is something like this. Even the food bite becomes like, okay, yes, I'm experiencing something. I'm not like, okay, I'm just stuffing my mouth to just get satisfied. No.
Right. Right.
So it's a different mindset. It's a different way of being, as you said that. And this piece of being is been in discussion with me and Sylvie. Were discussing about this piece of being and independence of being. So because we are discussing other things, and this is piece of being right there for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I want to make a big point here. Right?
Yes.
Trust is huge. Trust is huge. And in this process, right, when you came to the paper, I said just trust it to come. Trust it to come. Don't force it. Trust it to come. Allow it to come. Be open to it. Come. Make space for it to come. But it trust to come. But I should say. And what is absolutely essential in this is that we want to add in this context of when we are connecting to what's not imagined, to what's outside of ourselves. We want to add one additional thing to our trust, and that's belief. Now we say, well, we don't generally want to believe, but we have to believe that there is a moreness out there. Right. I have nothing to base my trust on because I have no evidence of it. So trust here is not exactly enough if you want to get really technical, and we have to be cautious because our inner bureaucrats get that. Say, but how can you trust more will come? Based on what? And you say, well, yeah, you're right. I have no evidence. So we have to believe. And here the concept is have to believe. Mm-hmm. Having to believe, right? As a concept, having to believe. It's a very powerful concept. There are times when we have to believe. This is one of them. Yes, we have to believe there's more out there. Now, I say, wait a second, inner bureaucrats. I'm sorry, now that I think a bit more about it, I actually do have proof that I can imagine stuff that I know I have no experience of. And they say, oh, give me some proof. I say, well, what about last night in my dreams?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, you got me on that one. Because they're very tit for tat, right? the bureaucrats. You got me on that one. All right, yeah, I have to acknowledge, right? They concede. I concede the point.
Yeah.
Don't be so lame, bureaucrats. Come on, for heaven's sake. Bloody hell, grow up. But yeah, so when we realize we have a capacity for imagination that surprises us. I mean, some of the stuff I dream about, like, really seriously, where the hell does this crap come from, right?
Yeah.
But it's imagination. And when we look at it from inside the dream, if you think of making a movie, even an ordinary, boring dream, right? You're creating a reality that is in every single detail is imagined. Yes. So we have an incredible imaginative ability, but it's simply just not always given the space. And now here's the thing with imagination: it's like dragon logic. I love this. I saw this somewhere in a book once. The dragons. They said, but the dragons are the most powerful creatures. How come the people can ride them? Because this was a book about dragon riders, right? Right. They said, yes, it's true. The dragons are powerful, but they lack volition. Yeah. So they have all this power, but they don't really have any volition. Right. Whereas the rider has volition, and this makes for an ideal marriage. Right. So now the dragon says, when you come with your volition, they have a deep service ethic, but no volition. So they serve your volition and everybody's happy. It works like a charm. Right.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. So now when we think of our imagination as the dragon, same applies.
Yes. Yeah.
It needs that volition, which is why I said, the intent is important. Now, when we understand intent and we understand abstract, the key is not to get too specific. Yes, to set your intent. Okay, I want to draw a painting. Fine. Right. There was a theme and a subject. In Beena's case, it was about synesthesia and all of this, right? So there was a theme. But within that, don't say it has to be include the people, whatever. Don't get detailed. Let it come for whatever it is. But you need to provide that volition, which has to be, at least it's more ideal to be abstract. Sometimes, of course, you need something absolutely specific. I remember having to design stuff for a wedding, a logo for a wedding that they were going to put on the invitations and the,
Uh-oh. Hang on. I lost. There we go. It's
me
back.
waving my hand about I hit the space bar.
Oh.
Talk with your eyes, not
yeah.
So sometimes we do want to be specific, but it's appropriateness. So when we understand the appropriateness of intent application or volition application, this is very crucial for the imagination. Yes.
Yeah.
Now we can get sophisticated too. We can say, okay, I've got to design this logo, and it's the whatever A and P was the letters for the bride and the groom, and there are constraints in this, there are parameters, and so come up with something. However, in addition to those appropriate ones, give me something out of the box just in case.
Right.
Right. Even though it's in that case, the out of the box might be inappropriate. We still ask for it because you never know. Sometimes when you have it, well, I was just in my spare time, I was just messing about. I say, oh my goodness, I never even thought of that. Wow, and they get all excited. Or they might say, oh yeah, never mind. But still, it's nice to have those extra options, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, just intent management, or in this case, volition management. You okay? Mm-hmm. You okay, Erica?
Tank is farting really bad, and I can like it's so bad that I can taste it. It's really disgusting.
What makes it so amusing is the blame it on the dog.
Oh no, it's only him and me here, so it's definitely the dog. Oh.
Okay, it was 50% chance, right?
Oh,
that makes it even more amusing. He puts blaming it on the dog. I love that.
Oh my God.
Dag, you villain,
Oh,
you villain. Yeah.
oh
So
gosh.
where's Aurora? Luckily, she's not around.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we didn't, let's see. When did that? Yeah, that happened a couple of days before I got to talk to you. So while we were gone, the rescue messaged us. We had Aurora at a temporary foster, and they messaged us and were talking about she was due for some shots and she needed to come in. And so we told them, we're not going to be back for a while. And so the earliest we could do it is like right after we get back. And they said, oh, great, let's schedule it for like the day after you get back because we need to update the shots and we have an application for her for adoption. And we were like, oh, okay. So we had just gotten back from the trip. We were like completely disoriented, got back, drove back to Tulsa the next day, went and picked her up from the temporary foster that same day, had her here for a couple hours, and then the next morning, I think, we took her in to get the shots updated and to do a meet and greet with the adopter. And they loved her and wanted to take her home, so they just like took her home right there. So it was like bing bang boom, happened really quickly.
Wow. Oh, I'm pleased to hear
So
that.
she,
I'm very
yeah,
pleased. I'm very pleased to hear that because the way Aurora came about, it was like not 100%, but okay, the universe and but it seemed to me always that it was going to be a temporary thing. At least, uh, not not that you had the mindset of temporary, you had sort of accepted that it might be permanent. But if things were ideal, this would be the ideal result, and here it comes.
right.
It's ideal, and I do think it's really made you acutely aware that getting a dog is, if we do get one, that it's really important it's the right dog. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that strategy, it's very pertinent to what we're doing now, to not commit to the dog no matter how much you think it is, and leave it
Right.
open and give it that trial period. 3
Right.
months. I don't know if it applies for dogs, but it applies for people. 3 months is the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So it's very critical, because otherwise you think, you go there and you're overwhelmed. It's like everything's fantastic. And then you get home and you find out, well, you know what, they fought like tank. And it's like, no, sorry. Right.
Right. Yes.
Is this a regular thing with tank or is it unusual? Because I never noticed it
Yes.
before. It's regular with tank?
What, the farting? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
he needs to
Yeah.
be dewormed or something. I don't know.
Dogs just fart. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just kind of what they do.
Bad.
But
That's normally.
this one was particularly bad. He might have like eaten something. That would not be surprising. He might have eaten something he shouldn't have. So, who knows?
It's too funny though. uh, um, just to get back to this, points not imagined and opening up to
Yeah.
that space for letting things to come. This is a magical
Yeah.
thing. And really, it is setting a search in your computer that includes databases typically not included. Yes?
Right.
Unconscious, subconscious, outside of ourselves, all those departments, X, triple X, and, just as they go down the line, there's a bunch of them, but they're quite magical. They're quite magical. So again, to have that belief in moreness. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is very key. Something else I've been meaning to ask you, have you drawn since the vacation or during the vacation?
No, I did not get the chance to during the vacation. And yeah, I would like to. It's definitely something I want to be doing, but haven't had the bandwidth to do it yet.
Talking about drawing, Beena, please share. So don't say a word, Beena, don't say a word. Just share screen and share. And I want to ask Erica what comes to her. Not what but the exercise is not what you think, no analysis, no assessment, but what comes to you. Beena,
Okay.
are you here? Beena, where'd you go? Beena, where are you? It's Binga. She may have stepped away for a second. She was busy drawing while we're chatting. So I have a suspicion there's a relevance. So I'm keen to see, and just as an exercise of letting things come. But now where's she? All right. Well, too bad, Beena. I'm just going to share your picture then. Let me just get it right here. You know, sometimes when I click on pictures with Facebook, I can zoom in on them, and other times I can't. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that has happened to me before as
It's
well.
very strange. All right. So, Beena, I'm sharing your picture here. All right. So, what comes to you when you look at this picture? Let me, I'm sorry, when you feel, absorb, comprehend, hear this picture?
Um,
What
let's
comes to
see.
you?
Well,
Not
so
thinking,
the
what
the
comes?
very first thing that I thought it looked like was a spider web.
Interesting.
Um, but really looking at it, it looks to me like a a stairway or a tunnel or something. And it kind of like the feeling that I get when I'm thinking about what this reminds me of is it reminds me of being in one of my favorite things is being in a, a space, a street or a path or something that's covered by trees.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh,
I
yes, yes, yes.
that's what this like the feeling that I get when I'm looking at this is the same feeling. I love that when that's one of my favorite experiences.
Yes, yes,
There's something just like I don't even
yes,
know exactly how to describe the feeling, but it's
yes.
I love that feeling of being
Exquisite, exquisite.
yeah, I love that
Yes,
feeling.
yes, absolutely. I'm so totally with you, and this does give me that feeling because it can't be a spider web because it's spherical. It's more of a cocoon,
Right.
but it's got
Right.
this
Right.
path. But also it's very interesting though because unless Beena drew it and she just took it on the photograph vertically, unless it's meant to be, sideways, which I suspect. Yeah, I have a feeling that it's flat rather than this because
Right.
now you get this feeling of you've got to vertically scale down this thing as opposed to a path that's covered, if you turn it on its side. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So it'd be interesting to hear from Beena. But boy, those covered streets or roads in South Africa, in Cape Town, there were a couple of them, and particularly
Yeah.
one area called Bishop's Court, the Bel Air of Cape Town. But
Okay.
it's near the gardens. It's called. It's a particular area that just blew Darwin's mind because it's in the lee of a
Mm.
mountain. So it's actually, even though the surrounding area isn't subtropical in the rainfall, you get this. So it's a very unique area because of the mountain and the way the rainfall is. But boy, the streets there used to have many of them like that covered because it's older houses,
Yeah.
very rich and beautiful, magical trees.
Yep. Yep.
And I used to go when I was in the army on my rounds as the post delivery guy between the HQ and the units. I would go driving through there. I guess, oh,
Yeah.
someone to
That
spy us.
actually that reminds me the very first memory I have of being on a street like that was when I was little. My great great aunt lived in this teeny tiny house in this really affluent neighborhood. She kind of
Good
lived,
for her.
it was super interesting. I can't remember. I know mom said the house originally belonged to my great great aunt's aunt, I think, who was a teacher, and she taught at this school that was in the really fancy neighborhood. And so I think that was how she had gotten this house. And it was like kind of on the edge of this super fancy neighborhood. And it's so funny because the house is still there. And when you drive by, it's like surrounded by these really big, beautiful, fancy homes. And then it's this little, this little tiny thing.
She's got
But
pulled out, the one they
yeah,
want to get rid of, right?
yes. And so, but because she lived in this fancy neighborhood, this older fancy neighborhood, we would drive, through the streets of that neighborhood to get to her house. And there was one street really close to her house that was lined on both sides with sycamore trees, which are some of my absolute favorite trees. And they make for a great, canopy tree. And I remember so specifically driving down that street as a kid and just being fascinated by this sort of tunnel effect with the trees and how cool it was.
Love those covered streets. They're my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
Absolute favorites.
Me too.
I'm trying to find some. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, one. Yes, one. Look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, but there's more. They don't show much of it. Yeah, I mean, you could go down streets upon streets. It was the whole suburb.
That's so cool.
I think I'm responsible for conspiracy theories, by the way.
Oh no.
Well, because I was driving in the little Toyota pickup truck, but it's an Army, that Army gray brown, right?
Right.
And I'm driving up and down the streets, every second day, just because I'm wasting time. I would drive like hell to do my route. And so I finished it very quickly. I found the super shortcut and I did it in a fraction of the time. So I had all this free time. And of course, they're seeing this truck and like, what the hell are you doing? Nobody, So I'm sure
that's
I'm
really fun
for a conspiracy theory. They don't show much of it. Yeah, it's a pity. But here's another one that's, you get.
Yeah.
But I like these ones, the old growth ones more.
Yeah.
Well, now we skip to a different thing here. But where the big, thick, heavy trees like that. But man, and you would get glimpses of these estates because there are estates like what's that TV show in the English TV show with the the modern day sort of nobility. Dang it, it's a famous TV show.
Anyway, like Downton Abbey or something.
Downton Abbey, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So a lot of the buildings in it are very Downton Abbey-esque, So
that's cool. Yeah.
That it comes from that colonial time. Many of them,
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, they don't show it do justice here. Here's where my app, which I'm still trying to get people to work on, where virtual, where I can hire a drone with virtual reality and say, hey, dude, please just go fly down these streets and over these houses for me. I want to show my friend what it looks like.
Right.
That would be very cool. Ooh. So, Beena, where are you? Beena? I want to hear your opinions on your drawing.
My opinions on my drawing? Seriously?
Oh yes.
Oh, it's a masterpiece. It's the masterpiece, sir.
I like that. Oh, I'm keen to hear because likely it's got some connectivity to what we're talking about. That's...
Exactly. So when you guys were discussing about things, so I was just drawing that, and I don't know how it came. Okay, yes, stairs were in my mind because it was in discussion. We were doing some exercises, and I am particularly fond of sitting on stairs and have chats and have coffee. I don't know why, but this is something I just love that.
That's funny you say that because I always sit on our stairs and Joe teases me about it. We have this very short staircase in our kitchen that leads up to the big staircase. And that's all, like anytime I'm in the kitchen, I go sit down on that little spot.
I just love that. I don't know why. I have no particular reason for that, but I just love that. And as I was doing doing this course, so that threshold term was always coming. It is like the buzzword there, threshold. And I was like, making fun of it, but actually staircases or stairs are actually threshold. It's a bit between thing, which is like, okay, a connecting point there, which is like, okay, yes, I feel that. So you are connected with both ends, but at the same time, you are independently sitting somewhere. And I like that happening places. Okay, I don't know why, but this is peaceful at the same time and also happening. I don't know how to explain this, but I just love sitting on staircases and stairs.
Like
So while you guys were discussing and you were sharing your growth, and like, because for me, this is the perks of growth. When you see things like, okay, yes, everybody else is having a different experience, they
Right.
are overwhelmed by that. Sometimes they get like really surprised and shocked, and you don't get that.
Right.
You get a completely different experience, and you are just enjoying and chilling. You don't get overwhelmed at all. This is the perks of growth, because now these things they just belong to your past self, not anymore, because you can see beyond the surface, you can see beyond the obvious. So that when you were discussing, I was drawing something, and I shared with Sil that, okay, when you guys were discussing, I was drawing this, and it is completely out of nowhere. So please share screen, Sil.
Right, let's hang on.
Yes.
Hang on, I want to do it in a better way than I did before. Okay.
And it is just a basic of the drawing. It is going to be a lot more into that, as at least this is what I feel right now. But who knows?
Beena, pictures open.
Like
Picture. Okay, so let's see. Here it comes. All right, so Beena, what I want to ask you is, what was the orientation that you drew the picture at? This?
Okay, so it is in my note sketchbook, so you can just, if you can rotate it, so we can see something, a different perspective of it.
I can. That's why I'm asking you.
Yes, please. No. It's upside down for now. Okay, yes.
That's what I thought.
This is how it is.
That's what I thought. See, now it makes total sense. Yes.
Yes.
Now, what do you see, Erica?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I mean, that makes me think of the tree-lined thing, 100%. Yeah.
Or what I said, all right, so now I love this, Beena. See, I love what you've drawn, because to me, it is absolutely pertinent and relevant to what we're talking about. We were talking about moreness, connecting to moreness, to unknown, unseen, unimagined moreness.
Exactly.
Right, now, sitting on the stairs. To me, what you've drawn is you've drawn the energy cocoon that surrounds stairs, and why it is so alluring and attractive and comforting to sit on stairs, because they have this energy cocoon that holds you and makes you feel.
Yeah.
There must be something in stairs that arranges energy in a particular way, that it does this cocooning to energy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I imagine, but I know that same feeling that you share, Beena. I agree with you. I know I like to do it too when I haven't had much opportunity for it, but when it is there, it's a magical thing somehow. I don't know why.
You know what this makes me think of? It's really interesting. So I remember, I don't know, maybe like a year ago or so, I kept hearing from in multiple different places, I kept hearing people talking about liminal spaces. And so I did all of this, I started like looking through pictures of liminal spaces, because in all the contexts that these liminal spaces were being talked about, it was like a negative thing, right? It was like a liminal space is this weird, like in between space where you're not where you're going, but you're not where you came from. And it's this like creepy, weird, just kind of in between spot. And as I was looking through all of these different pictures and then thinking about liminal spaces that I've been in, I actually love liminal spaces. They make me feel it's that same thing. So I sent you guys a link to a picture that I found that is kind of what was happening in my head when I saw this picture of Beena's, the tree-lined road. And I like those are some of my favorite spaces to be in when you're kind of on the journey, and it's not creepy to me at all. For some reason, being in the in-between space does not creep me out at all. I actually love liminal spaces. Um, and that's kind of the way stairs make me feel too, because stairs are this kind of similar liminal space of
Yes.
it's something, it's part of your journey, right? As most people see stairs not as the stairs themselves, but as like a mechanism for getting somewhere or going the other direction. And to me,
Hmm.
the stairs themselves are a cool place to be. Like it's, I don't know. I
Exactly.
think that's really interesting.
I can completely understand this thing with you, because this is I never had any explanation. Still, I don't feel that, but the energy is so. I feel myself more when I sit there. This
I
is
like
something
that.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, because I feel more of myself. It's not like I feel more energy, no, but I just feel myself completely. You can say that with my own, by my own. This is
Mm,
how I can explain.
yeah. Yes.
And this is the place I feel that, okay, now here, this is my place.
Right.
Okay, yes,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
my place.
Yeah. Well, and it's like liminal spaces sort of, to me, it's like it provides, I think maybe because the intent of a liminal space is not really a destination in and of itself, it's sort of intending to be this path. It gives you a cool place to stop and
Yes.
kind of just be you, because you're not worried about, oh, I'm at where I'm trying to go, and so I need to be paying. It's like it gives you this space. It's kind of okay. This is going to be a weird.
You're watching screen while you talk, yes?
Okay, yes, This is gonna be a weird analogy, but it's kind of like to me when you're in the shower and you're able to just like think freely because you're not really all that focused on what you're doing. It's like that. Like it gives you this space to just be, because you're not super concerned about, seeing where you're going or where you came from. You're just kind of on this path.
Oh, exactly as you were saying that, I feel I feel that, okay, this is my place. I feel that because it's a kind of a void between all the hassles and everything. So you feel that void, that nothingness, kind of like you just be
Yes,
yourself, and that's it. And that is the feeling you need sometimes to just make yourself it.
exactly.
So this
Exactly.
is okay.
And isn't it funny that a lot of people get creeped out by nothingness, by being sort of in this space of nothingness? I think that's really funny. That that's like a really creepy thing to a lot of people. And to me, I actually really like it.
Yeah. The point I wanted to make about Beena's drawing is that she was drawing something that is outside of our imagination typically, that
Yeah.
energy around the stairs. But it's something that she felt and perceived and connected to. But here she's actually articulating that imagination. So here's a direct exemplification, Beena, of 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 doing this exactly what we were talking, right? You were just
Exactly.
drawing and you let
Yes.
it come.
Yes, absolutely. This is again, I struggle a bit to pronounce it right, but okay, I know that you guys are quite comfortable with my weird pronunciation. So this control abundant is something. Yes, it's a this is something. It is like now manifesting in my life big time, because through this process, like, yes, you have a clear intent. The intent is not in a specification, but a general overall intent of doing, okay, of just doing and allowing something to just, let it come with no specifics, but also that you trust that it will come, and then you just let it. Then it's not in control. Not then it's not like, okay, no ego nonsense involvement into that.
Right,
Okay,
right.
it has to be sensible, not, it doesn't make any sense at all. So what? If it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense at all,
yeah,
I'm just doing, and this is how I'm just doing. So I was, it was a bit funny for me also, that yes, I was super excited that I'm going to just have some wisdom, some knowledge, and some tips from the world-renowned painter. I was like super excited to have been his
right,
course.
right,
And then when Cyril was sharing his process, I was like, okay, so I'm coming back to the same point again. Just do, let it come. And this
right,
is what I do.
right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
after going through all these things, and then you come back to the same point again, that just being is enough.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
enough of you.
Well, and actually, that's an interesting. It's when you said that, it made me think. It makes sense to me, really, about the discomfort around spaces like that, because
Yes.
if just being is uncomfortable for you, then you
Oh,
would be
yes.
uncomfortable in a space where nothing else exists and you're sort of forced to face your own
Oh,
being.
yes.
But if you enjoy that process, then you love those spaces because it gives you a space to do that. That's,
Wow.
that's really interesting.
Wow.
I was trying,
Exactly. So huge. Because yes, it makes total sense to me.
yeah,
It's so huge what you're saying right now, that if you don't have that piece of meaning, then you
right,
will feel uncomfortable with
right,
nothingness, because you need something else to leech on. Okay, I'm using harsh words,
exactly,
but anchor on something. But you are just okay. I can enjoy the void.
right,
And
right,
then this is coming back to the very basic concept, because that was the first time when I heard that from Sil, when he was saying that having patience, or having being comfortable with awkward silence. And I was like, okay, oh my God, this is so huge, because I always feel pressure that two people, they are having some, okay, not so pleasant situation there. And I feel obliged to make it comfortable, make it everything good and all that. And then Sil, he was sharing about like, oh, having being comfortable, being okay with awkward silence. It's a huge deal, because
yeah,
that is the first step towards your independence of being,
yes,
towards your peace of being. And now, okay, yes, it was in a particular situation with other, in connection with other people. But now, if we take it, this concept of being okay with awkward silence to a more abstract way, a more personal way, like just be with yourself
right,
and enjoy that awkward silence, like
right,
there is nothing, and being okay
yes.
with that.
Okay.
Huge.
And this is really interesting too, because it's making me think about, so the other day when I was talking about my trip, I was talking about the cathedrals that we kept going into and how
Yes.
I just like loved being in these spaces, and there was this
Yes.
energy and like really interesting, like Sil was saying, sort of reverential kind of quality. And now that we're talking about this idea of sort of void and like being in a place where you have to be, or you're sort of forced to look inward because there's nothing else to experience, that's a big part, I think, of what was happening for me in these churches, because it's this huge open space that's like quiet, and I mean, there's forced quiet because it's this respectful thing, and so they tell you to be quiet, and so you're in this like really cavernous open space that already has this really interesting energy, and it kind of naturally, I think that's part of why I was so excited in being there, is kind of like being on the stairs. It gives you that same
Same feeling.
opportunity to sort of self-reflect, but it also, to me, all of these spaces, I don't know, it sounds so
You watching?
paradoxical. What?
No.
You watching?
Oh no, I wasn't. It
Oh.
it sounds really paradoxical, but to me, being in those spaces of nothingness
Yes.
also makes me like really aware of my connectedness to everything else. And I'm not sure how that works exactly. Because
Yes.
that seems really paradoxical, but it's like when you are,
Paradoxical. It's not at all. No.
yeah, like when you're
Not
in that space of nothing, you feel like kind of alive. It's like it's not nothing because I'm here and I can feel my connectedness to everything else. I don't know. It's really fascinating.
okay. So it is making okay. But what you are saying, Erica, this is so huge because now it is making sense that stairs, specifically, if we talk about that, they are actually a void between two
Yes.
places.
Right,
So
right.
this is yeah, we are, and sometimes our own energy is enough for us, so we don't want something more to connect with. That's why just being in that void
Right.
makes us so at peace.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so fascinating. That's so
This is
interesting.
huge.
I feel there's a greatness
Wow.
that I'm almost putting my finger on why those spaces are so important. I feel I'm just going to start to express because I don't quite have it yet, so I'm just letting it come as it comes. That when we in those in between spaces, right, like on stairs or as you say, the liminal spaces,
Mm-hmm.
when there, we are not connected specifically to the rest of the world. We are connected essentially to ourselves only and to
Right.
Yes.
which means
Yes.
that for people like us who are very responsible people, we are now temporarily absolved from that responsibility which connectivity brings. Which is
Interesting.
why we find
Yes.
it so pleasurable, because I don't need to be taking everything into cognizance and paying attention and being appropriate and responsible, etc. I'm free to just be. You
Mm.
watching the video? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a gorgeous drive.
It is. It's beautiful. Yeah.
There's many like this. It's not even the most delicious one, but certainly is a profound drive. I mean, it's just something. Yeah. So it's Rhodes Drive in Cape Town. You saw earlier they showed it along the side of the mountain. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. There's so many in Cape Town. It's hard to find them because not everybody knows of them, and
Right.
they take it for granted. They don't necessarily think it's something that they need to
Right.
film and put on there. So
And I was going to show you guys, I found a couple pictures I have taken of these kinds of spaces. There's one of them that is still, every time I think about that kind of space, I think about this spot, which I just loved.
oh, share screen, share screen, share screen, please, please, please.
Let me get this into.
That's my explanation for at least a tentative, potential one maybe reason why we like those. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me get, I had zoomed these in,
I
so
feel the same on rainy and snowy days,
yes,
especially when the weather's really bad and you cannot do anything.
yes,
I feel like I'm
absolutely.
absolved of responsibility and it's like it's a free day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay, so this is one of my very favorite liminal spaces. Um,
Wow.
it was, so this is in a Frank Lloyd Wright home in Buffalo. And I love Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture. Um, and this is um, this outdoor hallway that connects the home to this really interesting, like, garden kind of area
Yeah.
that was off of the home. So at the end of the hallway, it's really hard to see in this picture. There wasn't a good way to capture all of it, but it's so cool. Here you can't see what's actually in the garden. You can just kind of see a little bit of the green right here. But when you're in person and you're standing in this hallway, it's so cool because at the end, I took another picture where you can see much better what you would see here. there is this statue. I think it's a statue of Nike that is set in this garden. And it's so cool because you're looking down this hallway, and at the very end you see, the statue, and it's just it's the coolest space. I love.
Okay, this is when you were sharing, I was trying to just perceive that, and I was feeling that that's the same feeling for me as it would be at any okay, yes, most precisely a lake or a river, which is and the trees around that. This is the
Yeah.
feeling of,
Yep.
and then and you want to just sit there on the floor, just enjoying that, trying to touch that.
Yep.
And this is
Absolutely.
the feeling.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's, to me, it was like, and especially, I mean, this was so cool because the path is like lined by all of these really interesting tropical plants. And so you sort of get this feeling that you're in the forest, and you're kind of in this. It was so cool. And then this one was one I just took I think this is Westminster Abbey. And there's so many of these really cool hallways that have this just incredible architecture. And it's the same thing. I mean, these little columns are sort of like trees. And I love these spaces. And they're so like big, and but you don't it really is like a cocoony sort of thing. You just feel like, I don't know. It's so bizarre. It's this big open space, and yet you feel like all snuggly and
Yes, exactly. You cannot explain it, but you can
yeah,
feel it. And I don't want to, of course, like okay, chat around like when I'm sitting here. I just want to be with myself, and that's it.
exactly, exactly, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to have that. This is so brilliant. This is so brilliant. Still, what do you feel?
I think there's. Can you go back to the first one? This one will
Yeah.
do as well, but the first one.
Oops. Wait a minute. Wrong tab. There we
Other
go.
back. There we go. Okay, so I think there's another reason why this is most appealing. Actually, this is a jump gate or an acceleration gate. Since we're on imagination. So now what do you mean, Sil? Okay. Well, in science fiction, in the future universes, in order to jump between vast distances, you need to get up massive acceleration. So with these pillars, this is a disguised jump gate, by the way. And so inside the pillars are these electrical coils and things that ramp up the magnetic energy, whatever that you need to accelerate through this. The evidence is in the carpet.
Oh, interesting.
See where whatever vehicle has got in here, but it's disguised in this house and it looks all very normal. But actually, what's going on? And look at your cathedral. That's an ancient one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta go back because I accidentally. Where's my button? Okay, I don't want that. Oh, that's just going to stay there. Go away. Sorry,
It's annoying when they do that. You got to full screen your.
Oh, what in the world? There we go. Maybe.
One more.
Oh my God, maybe I can just do this. Nope, that didn't work either.
Your arrow key didn't work?
There we go. We'll just do it that way.
There you go. See? This more ancient one, but same logic. All the stuff is in the side. And now I'll show you here real quick just what these look like. You see, this is a very basic one. You see?
Okay.
Very basic. And then you come with your starship on the side, and as you go, it accelerates you and it shoots you into the next quadrant or wherever you want to go. So
right.
It's either called a jump gate or an acceleration gate. And if we go back a little bit here, you'll see they come in all different shapes and sizes. See, there's a circular one, a different one. So tons of different ones, but the essential mechanism is the same. They've all got stuff on the sides that create an energy vortex tunnel thing that you go through and jump you. So there are ones that look almost exactly like that first drawing you showed me with the pillars on the side. The framework. I can't find it here now, but they're only showing ones that have some measure or value or importance or whatever. So anyway, I just thought since we're on imagination and letting imagination run a little bit, it seemed appropriate. Yes, but now,
yes,
I think of this often. that we need to include the preposterous.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we imagine and we think, oh, that's fun. Sometimes these things actually turn out to be so, and that's important to keep in mind. Yes, I'm not a great conspiracy theorist, but the important thing to be aware with the conspiracy theories is that every once in a while they turn out to be true.
Right.
You cannot discount the conspiracy theories, right?
Right. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, also this idea, like the pyramids, they were essentially, well, not a jump gate, but a similar thing, So, yeah, that's right. In that series, that was called Stargate, right? Those rings and stuff. They had a similar process. Yeah, where these aliens came and they landed on the pyramids. This whole TV series that had this involved. Yeah.
Right.
On that. So yeah, I mean, there's a logic to it that goes a little deeper if you look at things. But okay, now you're getting into conspiracy theory stuff. But what if stuff is disguised?
Right.
Now, okay, may not be technologically like that, but when it comes to perceiving energy directly in what Venus drawing is, this is something that's very, very real, but it's outside of our conceptions. Like Donna too, she's perceived energy directly, and Beena in other ways too. And it's something that we do want to develop the skill to do. But until we get really proficient at it, we're going to have crossover. And we need to understand it's crossover and not stop there and just keep going so that we can
right.
Because when we do perceive energy directly, we're actually getting to see things for what they actually are. So it's a way of seeing truth. Now, truth is, in this case, everything we see is essentially a lie because it's all description.
Right.
So everything we're taking E equal MC squares, we're translating it into matter. It's a translation. It's a description of something. It's not the energy itself. And so when we see the energy itself, we see, and there's no hiding of that energy. As soon as you distort it, it can become anything and everything. But when you see energy directly, there's no hiding it. Yeah.
Right.
It is what it is. You can't change it. It's
okay.
a root form.
I just have to share that I was looking up while I was getting my pictures ready to share earlier. I looked up liminal space because I think that's a fascinating term to me. And this says that the word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, Limen, which means threshold. And isn't that what you were talking about threshold?
Absolutely.
Wow. Isn't that fascinating? It says to be in a liminal space means to be on the precipice of something new, but not quite there yet.
Okay. Still, mostly he says that it's an intuitive thing. I feel it is okay. Yes, in a way it is intuitive, but I feel that at least I can say for myself, and sometimes I have experience for you also, that it is just that we miss some deliberate steps toward making sense of something. So we say, oh, it's just an idea. We don't trust that anymore.
Right.
But it is just like that. Okay, my mind works a bit faster, so I can. On energy level, or you can say that our intuitive mind, which I don't like that term. It's very vague, by the way. But whatever it is, we were aware that what it is.
Right.
We were aware of this, but we were not, of course, never try to deliberately try to verbalize it, make it big, just say it in words out loud, like, okay, how we feel and why we do that, because we were just following that energy.
Right.
Okay, now it's time. I need to be there. It's like people go, like we put our phone on charge. It is like we put ourselves disconnected.
Right.
And we go there where those energies, both energies or polar energies, are not really active. So we find a space in between, so we can disconnect from those. I mean, this is what they call threshold or liminal space. It's like really interesting.
I know.
It actually means
so fascinating. Yeah.
And we never pay attention to that, how much we are attuned with our energy system.
Right.
That we get aware that, okay, now it's time to just be somewhere where we don't get influenced or affected by the energies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it is really interesting to me. I mean, still what you were saying about perceiving energy directly. I think liminal spaces are one of the places where I feel like that I get close to that at least. There's this really
Yes.
palpable energy in a liminal space to me. And the interesting thing to me about that is, given what we were talking about earlier, perhaps the energy that you are perceiving is your own when
Yes.
you're in
Yes.
space.
Yes.
A liminal space
Yes.
provides you a way to directly perceive your own energy.
Because we can relinquish
Oh,
the
yes.
attention that we are forced to
Yes.
pay to the regular world.
Right,
In those spaces, we that energy is freed up, and we can apply it to ourselves.
right, right.
It's very, 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 very powerful, very important.
Yeah.
Wow. So I like remote places. Same thing. To me,
Yeah.
remote places are liminal spaces, but there are particular liminal spaces where energy congregates. Because again, Beena, if you look at that sitting on the staircase, it's not all staircases, right? There's some criteria involved. Yes.
Okay, not all staircases, but of course, stairs where you feel connect to.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
But in general, this is where you feel pulled towards. This is what I will say, that not exactly like, okay, yes, I cannot sit here, I don't want to be here, but stairs in themselves is something very, okay, attractive, you can say that. So it's not, yes, of course it is specific, but in general they are attractive, because there the energy is not actually active. So you can say that they have a passive energy, or
Right.
they are thresholds where you
Yep.
find the void between two polar energies.
Mhm.
So you just be there.
Yeah.
This is so cool. First time in my life, I found someone who actually say that, okay, he also like to
Yeah.
sit there.
Yes. Oh, I
Why
love that.
stairs? Why stairs? And I had no idea why stairs.
Yep.
You know why? And I'm very keen to see
Now I
continue on that drawing, especially I assume you're going to add in the colors, right?
oh, of course. Yes.
Very keen to see this. Very keen.
Yeah.
Very keen.
Of
Because,
course. And I'm adding things. I don't know why these things are coming.
So in the context of the course also, they were talking about synesthesia, which is perceiving in ways differently. And they had like the 12 senses, there's a whole thing with 12 senses. Okay. They aren't really senses, but nonetheless, the underlying theme, which they don't specifically say, is perceiving in non-ordinary ways.
Right.
Yes.
This is what we are. And capital H hearing is precisely about that. Yes.
Yes.
It's a bit of a disguised course, again, by intent, because you can't focus on it directly. You have to come at things, you have to come at it indirectly. But this is what we're about. The ability to perceive in non-ordinary ways with senses we don't even know exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have that. We both, at least in this, I can say for you and for myself, that we both have this awareness of energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we at in the course, in the program, Erica, but this is I think we're in actually module 2. But anyway, I just thought I'd share this here. Can you maintain your attention? If not, why not?
Mm-hmm.
What motivations were underneath your distraction or ability to stay present? So,
yeah.
Yeah. Already passed through.
We're going to get into this in detail, because it's that question seems to imply something that it doesn't actually. Yeah. So we don't, yes, to have the skill to be able to pay attention to one thing is a very powerful skill. But this doesn't mean literally that necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Simply, it means we have an ability to keep coming back, and we can maintain a center column, but we can go off on tangents. Yeah.
Right.
Now we want to have the discipline not to get absorbed in the tangents,
right.
but to have them just be tangents. Now, sometimes we can get immersed in our attention, and we want to make space for that to happen, and that's really cool. But we don't want to shut down the tangents, because how do we know the difference between a distracting, irrelevant tangent and a relevant tangent? See, so we need to have this ability that yes, my main focus, but I've got a sub processor which is running those tangents through a filter to say relevant or not relevant, because sometimes some little come up takeaway is going to come and so this is very important. And then I can digress, go into the tangent, but we always want to maintain that connection to the surface, so that I call it my center column. I can come back to the center column. So if we set that intent and have the discipline to maintain the center column, we don't have to be rigid, as long as we know we're going to digress and come back. That's fine. It's not a problem. Now we can go on a complete side digression, which is, down a side street that's a dead end and come back. Or you can make a detour. Same thing, right? You're still coming back to your center column, but they are different diversions from the center column, the center path, right?
Yeah.
But that's the key. That's the key. So anyway, we'll get into it more. So I am keen to continue, by the way. So
next time, that was my plan for this time, and I just didn't get there. But next time, I plan to come with having done some more of the program, so that we can get back on track.
Because it's so pertinent, and so good for what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It's exciting. And this connectivity to moving eventually towards perceiving energy directly, it makes the hearing program a spiritual program. It's I mentioned it at the end, but we want to. So let me just say something else on this. The program is very, very detailed. And yes, it might seem like it's overly detailed, but it's necessary, because we want to immerse so much in it that we develop this new conceptuality of being as a habit. So it's difficult to do on one's own, but in the course of the program, if we stick at this week in, week out, and it's going to take quite a while, we're now training ourselves to really reshape the brain and the habit, because we are doing a very, very different way of living. And we need to get to that granular detail for this habit shift. And so, yes, we're going to have a lot of redundancy and repetition. It's variant. It's not exactly the same, but it is necessary in this particular case. I just want to mention that. So it's a big deal. It's exciting, though. It's very exciting. We're going to really retrain the being to be a different type of being. And in a Leonardo context, we are absolutely going to train Leonardoism as one of the things that we are training.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Leonardo wasn't the most social person, correct?
They actually said he was. He was very charming, and he had a crew of people that were his friends and his kind of.
I'm making a more general way,
But generally speaking, I mean, I think he was able to separate himself from everybody else and get really granular on focusing his attention on something.
Okay, I might be thinking of somebody else then too. But still, so we want that skill that we can interact with anyone.
Yeah, Michelangelo was very antisocial.
Oh, then maybe it's him I'm thinking of. All right. One of them, it's very important, though, the skill, and then when we start to take capital H hearing and combine it with the capital diplomacy, now we shift into an entire different realm of being.
Right.
Plus, when we now add it to the creativity aspect, in terms of connecting to moreness not known, which is very important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To hear the self, to hear the unconscious, to hear the subconscious, to hear the extra conscious.
Yes.
I'll make up a new word.
I like it. It's true.
Another way of saying moreness, in other words,
Yeah.
So you think of it as extra conscious. It's there. It's a consciousness that we have access to, but that we are connected to, but we don't know we are. It's like you have a computer and you've got all these different hard drives and databases, but the computer's connected to the internet, and we don't know it's connected to the internet, right?
Right.
So now what? You do a search and you search your computer, but accidentally you search the whole internet and you come up with, I never knew that was on my hard drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the extra conscious is an important part.
Absolutely.
It's there.
Yes.
I love it.
Me too.
See you on Thursday. Can't wait, Erica. Can't wait.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I enjoyed your vacation, but I did miss you when you were gone, I gotta say.
Well, I missed you guys too. And yeah, it was an awesome experience, but it's also nice to be back to doing these other things as well. It's nice to get back to the other important stuff. So yeah, I will come next time ready to get back into our stuff. So.
I love it. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right.
Beena, before I go, sorry, in case Beena had something to say before, I don't want to just go without last.
I'm so happy today. I like having someone in your life who can actually understand what you feel. Is a blessing. I'm feeling truly blessed today.
It is.
Thank you for being, Erica. Thank you for being.
I appreciate it. I accept that, and same to you. Thank you for being you and being. And yeah, it's so exciting when someone else has the same, like, really specific experience that's kind of indescribable, and you're like, somebody else it's real. It's like it makes it real somehow.
Exactly. Before discussing with you, I was not able to actually share with Sil what I really feel about that.
Yeah.
But when you come, start just sharing, and I realized that, okay, yes, there is more I can share. And then you said that, okay, you have this too.
Yeah.
And now it is like a big thing. Now it's real. Now it's no more weirdo stuff. It's real.
Yeah. And it's so interesting framing it. I mean, what we were talking about, it's like it makes what I have felt in those spaces totally make sense now, because I have a new perspective on what before I just knew I was feeling something really interesting, but now I have like something that I can tie that to, and it makes sense why I was feeling that. So it's very cool. I want to go find a new liminal space now and try it out. I know.
Just something that reminded me before you go. How's your sleeping?
It's been actually really good since we got back from Europe, because I think the Europe trip like totally reset my time table. And so I had been going to sleep, like actually able to fall asleep earlier in the evening, and was getting up earlier just naturally. But then over the weekend, we went to visit some friends, and we were playing this like board game with them that ended up taking hours, and we stayed out really late. And then that completely reset my sleep schedule again. And now, like this morning, I woke up and I was completely exhausted.
Oh, wow.
So,
you had good energy for during the Zoom. So
yeah. I hopefully.
What was the board game? I'm just curious now.
Catan, was it called Catan? I think. Catan, I think that's what it was called. It's kind of like Monopoly, but not really. It's like this kind of world building. It's a board game that has cards, and they determine, what you're able to do. And it's strategic, but it's also a lot about luck. And it's an interesting game, but it took hours.
Interesting. Beena, when you've gone to visit, not with their children involved, like, adult to adult visits, have any of those visits ever included any kind of game, not just board games, but any kind of game, like, Yahtzee, or I don't know, Cluedo or whatever?
Okay, so it's common at least in my family and friends' family that, okay, when people are, especially adults, get together, so they kind of like make quiz, which is like, okay, 10 questions you can give answer, and sometimes just singing things by they call it in Hindi. It is called Antakshari, but it is actually like, okay, you are singing one song from this alphabet, and where you end, another will pick up from there. So this is the thing very common, other than board games. Yes.
That's cool. I like it.
That's very interesting. So I got an answer I didn't expect, because, at least when I grew up, this idea of adults playing games, absolutely no, out of the question. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh no, it's like, seriously.
I saw many of my grannies kind of, okay, they fall into granny category, used to play cards. Like, I saw them
cards is
smoking.
different, but that's not, if you're gonna go cards, you're gonna specifically arrange to go and play cards. This is now a specific arrangement to do that. It's not just you go visit and what are we gonna do? Are we gonna play games? No, that's a very specific activity. I don't mean it that way. I mean as part of your social visit, games, as especially this, like Yahtzee or whatever, charades or anything like that. Out of the question.
No, songs and quizzes. Like, this is a big deal.
I like it.
Very common.
Very interesting. Cool. Different cultures.
Yep. I like it.
I mean, in American culture, when you go visit your friends, it's almost the norm to some kind of a game. Right? I mean, it's very common. It's almost expected in a way, or you're certainly not surprised if it comes up. Yes.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
We have the singing and all these things. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like it. The reason I asked about the sleep is that I don't know if you're falling asleep immediately, then this doesn't apply. But if the time is taking, just as a useful exercise for the perception of alternate perceptions and an ability, a skill for perceiving differently, is to pay attention to your eyes and how you are focusing your eyes when they're closed.
Okay.
So for instance, I was saying to Beena, you can stare, you can gaze, and you can look. Like, for instance, if you do in the distance. And those are three different ways in which you hold and focus the eyes, correct?
Yeah.
And you can do this in a shorter, intermediate term distance. But they are decidedly different ways of looking. So even when your eyes are closed, you can be looking far, you can be staring far, you can be gazing far, right? And then you can bring that focus close. And all of those will greatly shift your perception of whatever is in your closed eyes. And with practice, that same eye shifting, focusing ability allows us to connect to, for instance, the dream, the hypnagogic state, imagery, whatever, right? So this is it's a powerful practice. If you are looking to fall asleep, it's very useful. It's very, very useful time to practice that. Yeah. Instead of just lying there.
Yeah.
And also, in that immersion on the eyes, if you use it as a meditative practice, where you're focusing on the eyes and what they see, and you shutting down all the chatter. Yes. So you at the same time using it as a meditation exercise, and this is just your mantra or your mandala or whatever. But instead of a mantra or mandala, you're just using that because you're paying attention to a view which is not there, but it is there. And after a while, you can see colors or even start to see actual images and so on. But it's a powerful exercise. But that shifting of the eyes is important. And there's a little moreness to it. Sorry, I know we time, but I don't want to lose this and forget it. How we hold our eyes is very critical to who we are. And being able to let go of the eyes, let go of a connection to an image, a way of being. And it gives us a great freedom, right? Because the classic example here would be someone like Clint Eastwood. You can clearly see his eye definition and how he holds his eyes. We all do it, just not in such a defined way as Clint Eastwood. But we all do it. So this ability to shift, it enables us to break that lock, and eventually we can unhook from that default. Hey, dang it, the smell came all the way over here now.
Oh no, that's no good.
Oh, geez. Wow, come on.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Sorry, Tank. You know what? I'm sorry, dude. You now really seriously gonna have to be put outside or something. I don't know. It's criminal. This is criminal. Wow.
Oh gosh, that's too funny.
Came all the way. Yeah, it is. I mean, it really smells like that, like dog fart.
Yeah. He has some pretty powerful ones.
And thick too, like you said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gross. Gross.
And I write by open window, but maybe it's coming in through the open window. Oh God.
Well,
yes.
maybe so. Ooh, yuck. Yuck, yuck.
Yeah.
Oh dear. All right.
All right. See you on
Thursday. All right. I will come prepared to talk about hearing and helping. So sounds good.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bill. Oh no. Yeah, hold your arm up. Bye, Beena.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
All right.